This topic introduces the connection between agritourism and sustainable rural development, highlighting how agricultural landscapes can support more than traditional farming. It shows rural areas as active spaces where visitors engage with nature, local practices, and community life. Agritourism is presented as a strategy that helps strengthen local economies by creating new income opportunities for farming families and small businesses. It also supports environmental stewardship, as maintaining healthy landscapes becomes essential for both agricultural activity and visitor experiences. At the same time, it contributes to cultural preservation by valuing local traditions, knowledge, and ways of living. Overall, the theme emphasizes how agricultural tourism can create resilient rural communities by combining economic vitality, environmental responsibility, and cultural continuity on a global scale. Many rural regions have traditionally relied almost entirely on farming as their main source of income. However, increasing climate variability, unpredictable crop yields, pest outbreaks, and fluctuations in commodity prices have created major economic challenges. These pressures make it difficult for agricultural households to depend solely on conventional production, especially in areas where farming has historically been the backbone of local livelihoods. Diversification emerges as a practical and adaptive response to these conditions. By incorporating tourism services into agricultural enterprises, rural communities can broaden their economic base while continuing to preserve their core farming activities. This approach allows residents to develop additional revenue streams through activities such as farm visits, educational programs, hands-on experiences, or hospitality services connected to rural life in the natural landscape. The expansion of income sources contributes to greater financial stability because risks in one area can be balanced by gains in another. When agriculture faces setbacks due to weather patterns or market instability, tourism-related activities may help balance overall household income. At the same time, these new activities can stimulate broader local development by attracting visitors, creating employment opportunities, and reinforcing the value of rural environments and cultural practices. The concept highlights how diversification, anchored in agritourism, supports more resilient rural communities by promoting economic adaptability, reducing exposure to external shocks, and opening pathways for long-term sustainability. Each pathway represents an opportunity to strengthen local economies, reduce reliance on traditional crop cycles, and create new streams of revenue that remain tied to the identity and rhythms of rural life. One approach involves homestay arrangements where visitors are welcomed into on-site lodges or adapted farm buildings. This creates a steady flow of income throughout the year. Rather than only during harvest seasons, it also allows existing infrastructure to be repurposed into inviting accommodations that showcase the character of the farm and the surrounding landscape. Another pathway centers on experiential activities, seasonal fruit picking, guided tours through cultivation areas, animal feeding sessions, and hands-on demonstrations transform ordinary agricultural tasks into engaging visitor experiences. These activities allow farms to offer something unique while turning the agricultural calendar into an asset with clear market value. The authenticity of these experiences often supports premium pricing and reinforces the connection between visitors and local food systems. Direct sales provide an additional opportunity. When farms sell their products directly to visitors, intermediaries are removed from the supply chain, enabling producers to retain a larger share of the profit. These transactions also strengthen local economies by encouraging farm-to-table relationships based on transparency, trust, and quality. Finally, cooperative models allow groups of farmers or rural entrepreneurs to join forces. By sharing resources, skills, and marketing strategies, cooperatives can deliver a wider range of experiences or products than individual members could offer alone. This collaborative approach increases visibility, broadens tourist appeal, and helps distribute benefits more evenly across the community. Together, these pathways illustrate how diversified rural strategies can generate stable, resilient livelihoods by integrating tourism, local production, and cooperative organization into the everyday life of agricultural regions. This topic highlights how agritourism contributes to employment creation across multiple sectors, showing how rural economies can benefit when agricultural activities intersect with tourism-driven services. Instead of relying solely on traditional farm labor, agritourism introduces a more diverse set of job opportunities that span different skills, age groups, and levels of experience. As visitors engage with rural spaces, new roles emerge in areas such as hospitality, retail, transportation, education, and even artistic or cultural programming. This broadens the employment landscape and supports more dynamic rural labor markets. The expansion of job opportunities is particularly significant in regions where traditional agricultural employment has been declining. Mechanization, technological shifts, price volatility, and changing market conditions have reduced the need for manual labor in many farming operations. Agritourism provides a way to counterbalance this trend by integrating visitor-oriented activities into farm routines. These roles may include guiding tours, assisting with hands-on agricultural experiences, preparing local food products, managing events, or supporting guest services. Employment linked to agritourism can be seasonal or year-round, depending on the structure of each enterprise. Certain activities naturally align with agricultural cycles, such as harvest festivals, fruit picking seasons, or planting events, while others, like lodging, educational visits, and cultural workshops, can continue throughout the year. This mix of temporary and permanent opportunities helps stabilize income for rural households and encourages younger generations to remain engaged in local economies. The theme illustrates how agritourism can revitalize rural employment by extending opportunities beyond conventional farming tasks and integrating new services that respond to visitor interest, cultural heritage, and local identity. Instead of limiting opportunities to traditional agricultural work, agritourism broadens the labor market and activates new roles that rely on agricultural knowledge, hospitality skills, transportation services, and local craftsmanship. One of the first areas where this effect becomes visible is in direct farm roles. As visitors seek authentic, hands-on experiences, farms require tour guides, workshop coordinators, and activity managers who can interpret agricultural practices for guests. These positions draw on existing expertise within rural communities and immediately expand the range of employment available on or near the farm. Hospitality services represent another major source of job growth. The preparation of meals using locally sourced products increases the need for cooks, waitstaff, and hospitality professionals trained in regional cuisine. This not only strengthens the local food economy, but also reinforces cultural identity by showcasing traditional flavors and cooking methods to visitors. Transportation networks also benefit from agritourism. Bringing visitors to remote rural destinations requires drivers, mechanics, and logistics planners who can ensure safe and reliable access. This demand encourages the development of mobility services in areas that are often underserved, improving infrastructure and supporting long-term connectivity. Finally, artisanal production plays an important role in expanding employment. Craft making oriented towards souvenir markets creates opportunities for artisans who produce handmade goods tied to local heritage. These activities offer meaningful income streams within communities that may lack other forms of sustainable economic activity. The multiplier effect demonstrates how agritourism strengthens rural employment by activating a wide range of job categories. It links agriculture with complementary industries, generating economic activity that extends far beyond the farm itself and contributing to more resilient and diversified rural economies. When visitors enter agricultural environments, a natural connection forms between production and consumption, creating opportunities for producers to engage directly with potential buyers. This proximity eliminates the need for intermediaries typically found in conventional distribution chains, allowing farmers and artisans to retain a larger share of the final price. As a result, higher margins can be achieved without relying on large-scale logistics or external retail networks. The presence of visitors at or near production sites also changes the dynamics of market access. Instead of competing for attention in distant markets, producers can showcase their goods within the context where they are grown or crafted. Fresh fruits and vegetables, homemade preserves, artisanal cheeses, baked goods, and handcrafted items gain additional appeal when experienced in their place of origin. This setting enhances the sense of authenticity and provenance, qualities highly valued by consumers seeking meaningful and trustworthy purchases. Another important aspect is the behavioral tendency of tourists to purchase items they have seen, tasted, or interacted with during their visit. Farm experiences often lead to spontaneous buying decisions, influenced by the emotional connection associated with firsthand encounters. This supports the sale of not only fresh produce, but also preserved foods, specialty products, and handmade crafts that reflect local culture and identity. The theme highlights how agritourism strengthens local economies by giving producers enhanced visibility, more control over pricing, and a captive audience of consumers already motivated by the desire to engage with rural life. This direct exchange fosters sustainable markets where economic value remains within the community, while offering visitors an opportunity to take home products tied to their experience. As agricultural sites welcome visitors, there is a need to balance sustainability goals with the practical demands of hosting people in active production environments. Effective management approaches span land use, water systems, energy choices, waste reduction, and biodiversity protection, forming a bridge between ecological stewardship and the functioning of rural tourism enterprises. One important component is strategic land zoning. This involves organizing different areas of the property so that production spaces, visitor zones, and sensitive ecological areas can coexist without conflict. Rotational land use, controlled access paths, and dedicated demonstration fields help maintain soil health and crop integrity while offering safe and educational spaces for visitors to engage with agricultural activities. Water conservation represents another essential pillar. Many agritourism operations implement drip irrigation, rainwater harvesting, and gray water reuse systems to reduce pressure on local water supplies. These measures ensure that the presence of tourists does not compromise water availability and that agricultural operations remain resilient during dry periods. Renewable energy also plays a key role in sustainable management. Solar installations, passive cooling design, and energy-efficient equipment help reduce dependence on fossil fuels while demonstrating environmentally conscious practices. These systems often serve as educational features for visitors, reinforcing the link between energy choices and environmental responsibility. Circular waste systems create a visible and practical connection between tourism and sustainability. Composting organic waste, reusing farm byproducts, and recycling materials allow resources to circulate back into the production cycle. Because these processes are easy for visitors to observe, they provide meaningful learning opportunities about waste minimization and ecological cycles. In many rural destinations, the appeal of the landscape and the uniqueness of local ecosystems play a central role in attracting visitors. Because of this, protecting biodiversity becomes more than an ecological goal. It becomes an operational necessity for maintaining the value and competitiveness of agritourism activities. Diverse plant species, traditional crop varieties, and varied habitats all contribute to healthier and more resilient farming systems. When visitors explore orchards or gardens containing multiple fruit types, heritage varieties, or mixed crop arrangements, they are introduced to the idea that diversity serves practical functions beyond aesthetics. It supports pollinator populations, strengthens natural pest resistance, and enhances soil health. This reduces dependence on chemical inputs and helps farms adapt to environmental pressures over time. Within agritourism settings, these principles often become part of the visitor experience. Guided walks through fields or orchards can illustrate how biodiversity influences the abundance and quality of produce. Guests can observe firsthand how different plant species interact and how this complexity contributes to the overall productivity of the farm. What might otherwise be a routine walk through farmland becomes an educational moment that connects ecological diversity with tangible agricultural outcomes. By integrating biodiversity into the visitor experience, agritourism enterprises reinforce the economic importance of preserving ecological richness. Healthy, diverse landscapes enhance the attractiveness of rural destinations, strengthen local food systems, and contribute to sustainable rural development. In this way, biodiversity becomes both a natural resource and a strategic advantage that supports environmental stewardship and economic resilience. As rural destinations welcome more guests, the need to build infrastructure that minimizes ecological disturbance becomes central to long-term sustainability. One component is the creation of sustainable access routes. Rural roads are often vulnerable to erosion and runoff, especially in sensitive landscapes. By using locally sourced materials and engineering techniques that strengthen the roadbed, communities can create pathways that withstand weather conditions while reducing environmental impact. Permeable surfaces and well-designed drainage systems protect nearby soils, watercourses, and vegetation, ensuring that increased visitor traffic does not degrade natural ecosystems. Energy-efficient facilities form another essential pillar of eco-friendly development. Integrating solar panels into rooftops provides a renewable energy source that reduces dependence on fossil fuels. Combined with passive cooling design, which uses natural airflow instead of mechanical systems, these features lower operational costs and reduce the carbon footprint of agritourism enterprises. Visitors often notice these systems, making them both functional assets and educational elements. Water management also plays a critical role. Rainwater harvesting structures collect and store water for later use, while constructed wetlands and natural filtration systems help treat gray water in environmentally responsible ways. These systems maintain water quality, support local biodiversity by creating microhabitats, and enhance the visual landscape, blending ecological function with appealing design. Waste solutions complete the sustainability cycle. Facilities for separating recyclable materials, along with on-site composting stations, ensure that organic waste is converted into nutrient-rich soil amendments. These systems demonstrate closed-loop resource use, showing visitors how materials can be repurposed rather than discarded. In many rural areas, cultural heritage is deeply intertwined with agricultural life, expressed through rituals, craftsmanship, architectural styles, and long-standing farming techniques. When tourism is integrated into active agricultural landscapes, it becomes possible to maintain both the tangible and intangible elements that contribute to this cultural richness. The preservation of cultural heritage functions not only as a deliberate strategy, but also as a natural outcome of inviting visitors into environments where traditions are still practiced. By encountering these traditions in their original context, visitors experience cultural expressions as part of everyday life rather than as staged or commercialized performances. This approach reinforces the authenticity of the encounter and strengthens the continuity of cultural practices across generations. Engagement becomes even deeper when visitors take part in activities rooted in local customs. Seasonal planting ceremonies, for example, allow guests to observe or participate in rituals that mark the agricultural calendar. Weaving sessions using community-grown fibers highlight the craftsmanship and knowledge passed down through families and communities. Culinary workshops based on indigenous recipes invite participants to explore food traditions that reflect local history, ingredients, and land-based knowledge. These forms of participation transform visitors from passive observers into active witnesses of living heritage. The experience provides insight into how cultural practices are sustained, adapted, and transmitted, while also contributing to their preservation by generating respect, economic support, and visibility. Intangible heritage includes the skills, techniques, and symbolic expressions passed down through generations, elements that are not physical structures but are deeply embedded in the social and cultural fabric of rural life. Agritourism creates opportunities for these traditions to remain visible, relevant, and economically viable. One major aspect is the preservation of agricultural traditions, techniques such as coffee cultivation, which have been refined over centuries, often survive through family transmission. When these methods are incorporated into structured visitor itineraries, they gain new visibility and appreciation. Guests can observe cultivation stages, learn about heritage crop varieties, or even engage in hands-on activities. This interaction supports the continuity of knowledge that might otherwise be at risk as modern agricultural practices change. Artisanal crafts also play an important role in safeguarding intangible heritage. Textiles featuring ancestral motifs, handmade tools, and culinary specialties prepared with heritage crops all act as carriers of cultural meaning. These crafts convey the stories, symbols, and identities of local communities. Within agritourism, they serve a dual purpose. They provide a platform for cultural transmission and offer artisans financial opportunities that help sustain their craft traditions. Built heritage forms another dimension of intangible preservation by reinforcing the spatial narratives of rural life. Old farmhouses constructed with local materials, terraced fields shaped by centuries of cultivation, and traditional rural layouts tell the story of how communities adapted to their environment. Maintaining these structures within agritourism settings allows visitors to experience the history embedded in the landscape. Even when the focus is on intangible heritage, the physical setting strengthens the connection between past and present. Rather than viewing tourism as something imposed from outside, communities become co-creators of the experiences offered, influencing both the direction and the benefits of local initiatives. This transformation occurs through structured involvement in planning, decision-making, and collective management, ensuring that tourism activities reflect local priorities, values, and capabilities. Meaningful empowerment emerges when residents help determine how tourism is organized, what activities are promoted, and how economic gains are distributed. By contributing their knowledge of local landscapes, traditions, and social dynamics, communities guide tourism in ways that support long-term sustainability rather than external agendas. This approach positions residents not as beneficiaries of decisions made elsewhere, but as agents influencing their own development paths. Participation can take many forms. Some communities establish cooperatives that coordinate tourism services, manage shared resources, or develop joint marketing strategies. Others rely on informal networks that connect multiple households, allowing families to collaborate on hosting visitors, offering workshops, guiding tours, or producing local goods. These collaborative arrangements broaden the economic impact of tourism while strengthening social cohesion. This participatory approach also affects governance. When residents play a role in regulating tourism practices, they help ensure that activities align with community interests and protect local culture and natural resources. This type of engagement supports models of tourism that are more equitable, resilient, and rooted in place-specific identities. Empowerment in this context is multidimensional, involving economic, social, cultural, and environmental aspects that reinforce each other and help communities guide their own development pathways. One major dimension is economic control. When communities manage revenue directly, they gain the ability to reinvest in projects that align with shared priorities. These might include improving irrigation systems, restoring public facilities, enhancing educational programs, or supporting local entrepreneurship. Direct financial stewardship ensures that the benefits of tourism circulate within the community rather than being extracted by external actors. Capacity building represents another essential component. Agritourism often requires a diverse set of skills, ranging from hospitality management and customer service to language proficiency and sustainable resource use. Training programs equip residents with these competencies, expanding not only individual opportunities but also the overall capacity of the community to manage tourism in a professional and sustainable manner. Social cohesion also plays a vital role. When community members collaborate on tourism initiatives, whether through cooperatives, neighborhood networks, or shared agricultural projects, trust and solidarity grow. This collective engagement strengthens local governance and supports joint decision-making processes that reflect community interests. Environmental stewardship is a further dimension of empowerment. When local groups have the authority to set visitor limits, establish codes of conduct, and define ecological thresholds, tourism becomes more compatible with long-term ecological health. These measures allow the community to protect natural resources while promoting low-impact visitor behavior. Finally, cultural autonomy ensures that communities retain control over how their heritage is presented. Local residents decide which traditions can be shared with visitors and which should remain protected. This balance preserves cultural integrity while enabling non-sensitive practices such as crafts, performances, or culinary traditions to generate income. Taken together, these dimensions show how agritourism can become a tool for strengthening local governance, reinforcing cultural identity, and ensuring that development is community-driven rather than externally imposed. In many rural communities, elders hold skills that have been refined over decades, skills that risk being lost as lifestyles change. Agritourism creates opportunities for these practices to remain visible and relevant by placing visitors in authentic rural settings where experienced community members demonstrate techniques tied to cultivation, craftsmanship, and sustainable land management. The transmission of these traditions functions as a core dimension within agritourism. When elders guide visitors through activities such as planting, harvesting, or preparing traditional foods, they not only educate outsiders, but also involve younger members of the community. This interaction helps ensure that ancestral knowledge is preserved and passed forward, reinforcing the social fabric that connects generations. Economic incentives associated with tourism participation also play a role. As families engage in agritourism activities, younger relatives are often included in operational tasks, guiding tours, teaching visitors, assisting with demonstrations, or showcasing traditional crafts. These responsibilities expose youth to cultural practices that might otherwise fade from daily life. What may have once seemed outdated becomes recognized as valuable cultural capital with the potential to generate income and strengthen local identity. Through this intergenerational exchange, agritourism helps maintain continuity between past and present. Elders find renewed purpose in sharing their expertise. Younger generations develop a deeper appreciation for inherited knowledge, and visitors gain insight into the cultural depth of rural life. The overall result is a dynamic process where traditions remain alive, relevant, and integrated into contemporary economic opportunities. As rural areas face pressures from changing markets, population shifts, and environmental challenges, agritourism emerges as a model that supports resilience while honoring long-standing agricultural foundations. One of the strongest contributions of agritourism is its ability to diversify income. By integrating visitor-oriented activities into existing agricultural operations, communities gain additional revenue streams that reduce reliance on traditional crop production alone. This diversification fosters economic stability, supports employment creation, and encourages the growth of complementary enterprises such as direct sales, hospitality, artisanal crafts, and educational programs. These activities expand local markets and help rural families remain connected to their land. At the same time, agritourism strengthens environmental stewardship. Sustainable resource management, biodiversity conservation, and eco-friendly infrastructure ensure that increased economic activity does not undermine the natural systems on which communities depend. Practices such as land zoning, renewable energy use, water conservation, and circular waste strategies support long-term ecological resilience, benefiting both residents and visitors. Another component of the sustainable path is cultural continuity. By preserving local traditions, protecting intangible heritage, and facilitating the transmission of agricultural knowledge across generations, agritourism reinforces the social fabric that shapes rural identity. Elders, youth, and visitors interact in ways that celebrate rituals, skills, and cultural expressions deeply rooted in place. This process enriches community life and helps ensure that heritage remains meaningful and accessible. Community empowerment completes the picture. When residents participate in planning, decision-making, and benefit sharing, tourism projects reflect local priorities. Empowered communities guide their own development trajectories, creating tourism models that are inclusive, equitable, and aligned with long-term goals.